So, I have to say that one of the most annoying things is when you see white dudes complain about other white dudes or other white people. You know what I mean? Like, and you see it happen a lot in Hollywood. You see it happen a lot in the comic book space, and you definitely see it in the animation space, at least when it comes to American animation, not so much Japanese anime. So what am I talking about? Well, we have an article here from Bounding Into Comics that's talking about the Invincible co-creator, which goes by the name Robert Kirkman, who apparently stands by race swapping in Amazon's animated adaptation, and then says we have to recognize that a couple of dumb white guys made this comic book in the early 2000s. Yes, he says that a couple of dumb white guys made this comic book, and thus we must race swap things because that's the modern thing to do, because black and modernity is synonymous with each other. Apparently there is no other race, there is no other diversity other than black. It is absolutely stupid. And just for you guys reference, this is what Robert Kirkman looks like. Okay, I'm gonna blow up this picture so you can clearly see he's not a very diverse person himself. If you want to go by their own actual laws of diversity, he is a white dude. All right, I don't know his actual nationality, but according to the left, right, you are basically white if you have skin like this. So he's a white dude, and he's saying that other dumb white guys made this comic book, and thus that's apparently inherently a bad thing. So it just goes to show that they love corrupting the work of other people. Like, they love taking the work of other people and claiming that it's their own and they could do with what they wish, because that's the modern thing to do. But again, it's usually white people saying this about other white people. So let's get into this article from Bounding Into Comics. It says, according to series co-creator Robert Kirkman, the decision to race swap a number of core characters in Amazon's animated adaptation of Invincible was born out of his personal belief that he and artist Ryan Otley failed to make the original comic sufficiently diverse, particularly by modern standards. Again, what does that mean? That means black. It says, as can be confirmed by audiences who engaged with both iterations of the hero's story, a total of 3 members of Invincible's cast were subjected to Hollywood's favorite method of virtue signaling. First and foremost, apparently, was Amber Burnett, the first love interest of the series' eponymous protagonist. Making her proper debut in the Image series' 8th issue, Amber was originally depicted as a blonde white woman. Now, apparently, however, in the animated series, Amber's appearance was instead inverted, with the character now sporting raven hair and black skin. Not only that, but in a move completely counter to the supposed intention of endearing this more diverse version of the character to audiences, the animated Amber was also given a whole new personality, which usually happens, right? They cannot have the same personality if they're race swapping the character. They always seem to think, and I don't even know how this character is in this animation, so I could be completely wrong, I admit that, but usually when they create black characters, black female characters, or diverse characters as a whole, they make them insufferable. Okay, they make them actually not even relatable in the slightest. They make people hate these characters because they are so insufferable. They're so filled with like these one-liners of identity politics. They're filled with these angry feelings towards men. Usually they're filled with all this stuff that people cannot stand to watch or read, and that's because they're made by other white people that have an idea of what black people are supposed to act like or what true diversity is. It's ridiculous. So it says, rather than Amber, who though always fearful for his safety was always understanding of her one-time boyfriend superhero lifestyle, Amazon presented audiences with a version of the character who took outright offense to the fact that Invincible did not reveal his secret to her after just a few weeks of dating. Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Like, they're making her insufferable. They're making her why am I not surprised, bro? I'm never surprised. I'm not. And though not as apparent thanks to the somewhat racially ambiguous nature of their depiction in Otley's original work, both series protagonists Mark Grayson and his mother Debbie also had their identities altered in the leap to the small screen, where their comic book selves were both white and half Vitramite in Mark's case. Their animated incarnations have been explicitly confirmed as being of Korean descent. Speaking to TV Guide ahead of the Amazon series' upcoming second season, Kirkman revealed that despite the backlash these changes have received, much of it was born from fans' disappointment that the series' first foray into a new medium would be less than accurate to the characters and stories they had loved for nearly 2 decades. They believe the result was a net positive for the representation. It's always a net positive for the message, ladies and gentlemen. The message cannot take any backside to the actual story, okay? So it's the message first, and then it's the story. They're gonna create the story out of the message, and this is why why the stories are always bad. This is why people like Robert Kirkman, I hope at the end of the day, do lose their job to AI. AI is coming for these terrible fucking writers, okay? AI is coming for these terrible Hollywood elites that swear that they are being virtuous. They swear that they're the right ones on the right side of history. They swear that they're totally not racist. They're not racist, guys. Absolutely not. Look, we made a token black character. Look, we made a token Korean character. We're not racist. We fixed the past transgressions with past comics. It's so stupid. It says, asked by the outlet's Cat Moon how much this concept of representation was on your mind when you were working at season 2, Kirkman asserted that's something that's been really important to us. We have to recognize that a couple of dumb white guys made this comic book in the early 2000s, explained the Walking Dead creator, and there was a real lack of diversity in that series. And also with the Invincible character himself, we talked to fans at all the conventions and places we would go, and because his ethnicity was ambiguous in the comics, everyone identified with him. We would have Filipino fans come up and say, I'm so excited that you make Mark Filipino. We would have Mexican fans come up and say, we're so excited that you made Mark Mexican. And it was just amazing to see how important representation is on a personal level when you're face to face with a person. Dude, honestly, nobody came up and said that. Nobody said any of this nonsense. I guarantee you none of that was said. Isn't it funny how they have the same story every single time? Whenever they race swap a character, they have the same story every single time. So-and-so person came up to me and said they were so happy because they finally got to see themselves in XYZ film, XYZ comic, or whatever. Nobody said that, okay? It's funny how every single Hollywood elite has the same fucking bullshit story they're telling, because when they talk about representation, when they talk about diversity, they have to all justify it with some fake story about a fan coming to them and telling them how happy they were to finally see themselves. And yet the funny thing is, when you talk to anybody but those Hollywood elites, most people just don't give a shit. And the ones that they do were indoctrinated by those Hollywood elites to believe that this is what matters and this is how they can finally see themselves. It is absolutely stupid at the end of the day, and they all have the same bullshit story. It says, and it was amazing just to see how important representation is on a personal level when you're face to face with a person. He continued, because I grew up at a time where I went to see Rambo and Die Hard and Terminator and every movie that came out when I was a child, and I watched a bunch of tough white guys do cool stuff, and I was like, this is a lot of fun. And you end up being in this bubble where you have no awareness of what it's like to live in a world where you're not seeing yourself reflected in all of those other things. Bro, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Do you know how many black people or Hispanic people were on screen in prominent roles where I got to see myself, if you want to claim that, I got to see myself in multiple different roles and how badass it was? You know what the problem is? These white liberals, what happens is that they grew up only watching those white movies. They weren't actually exposed to the stuff that was meant for black people, the stuff that was meant for Hispanics. They weren't exposed to any of that stuff, right? So most of them probably never watched Family Matters on TV. Most of them probably never even watched Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on TV. Most of them never grew up watching The Last Dragon, right? Nobody grew up, they didn't grow up watching this stuff. So they think in the world that there wasn't enough representation, when those dumb motherfuckers would realize, if they actually looked at any filmography, they would realize that there were so many movies, prominent movies with lead diverse actors in them, plenty of them for people to see themselves throughout the years, if you want to use that bullshit narrative. But because you didn't watch it, because it wasn't in your household, because you weren't exposed to it, you think every single prominent character was a white one. So now your solution is to take every single prominent white character and race swap it because you feel like black people are just incapable of getting characters that work for themselves, or any other race for that matter. It really is such a tired trope. I'm so sick of hearing about it, and I'm getting so fed up with the nonsense that is coming out from people like this complete idiot. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it, and if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.